Hello everyone, what's up? Moses here, and today we have a topic that I've wanted to make a video about for a while, and I think it's really important as a part of my effort to help out new players, for you guys to learn about jewels that exist in the game and what they can do and what they're going to affect and how to craft them, and also a little bit talk about PoE affix, how to use that tool, PoE trade, and fossils. So it's going to be a pretty lengthy jewel. It's going to be a pretty lengthy video. We're going to be focusing on jewels, and we're going to be sharing some more info. So brace yourselves. Let's go. So jewels are, in fact, an extremely important part of your character's gearing, and they're going to add a lot of utility, a lot of damage, a lot of life to your character overall. So how do we go about choosing them, crafting them, and all that? Let's start. You have three rare jewels or regular jewels that can drop anywhere, and you have four abyssal jewels that can only be dropped from abysses. Abysses are an instance in the game where you have like a little thing and you touch it and then it starts spreading, and sometimes there's a hole in the ground, then you have an abyssal depth, and most of the times you'll see a chest in the end. And at the end, you're going to be fighting the abyssal monsters. And at the end, once you reach it, you'll drop one random jewel out of these four. So, for the differences between them are two differences. One, you will get an increased mod for damage on the rare jewels, on the normal regular jewels, and you will get a two attacks way of modifying your damage with the abyssal jewels. All right, so there's like two different types of damage that we're going to be utilizing via abyssal and rare jewels. Increases and two. Okay, added flat damage two. For example, minions deals 8 to 12 additional cold damage. Here we got 14 to 16 physical damage to spells while holding a shield. Lightning damage to attacks, cold damage to wand attacks, fizz damage to mace attacks. And over here we got increased attack speed with claws, increased attack speed while holding a shield, increased energy shield, recharge rate. This is actually not a good example. Let's roll it. Increased lightning damage, increased attack speed, projectile damage. Those are all increases. What does that mean? That it means that if I'm playing arc, right, and my arc does 100 damage, and I have an increased spell damage roll on this cobalt jewel. I'm not gonna roll it until I find it, but there is a roll that's called increased spell damage by 12%. Then my arc will make instead of 100, 112, right? But if I get 2 lightning damage to spells on a, or whatever, physical damage to spells while holding a shield, then my arc will now make 114 to 116 damage, right? Because it adds to that number 14 to 16 physical damage to spells while holding a shield. I happen to be holding a shield. So flat added damage on all the abyssal jewels, and increased damage to all of the rest of the normal jewels. Alright, and those are two ways we can scale damage with our character. This is an important thing to understand. The second difference is that these rare jewels, or normal or magic jewels, their eye level or item level, or the zone in which they drop, makes no difference. If you look at PoE affix, which is our second, like our first tool that we're going to use, we're going to be looking at, let's say, a cobalt jewel, right? So we're spellcasters. You can pick any of the mods in this list, right? Prefixes or suffixes, any of the mods, and it will always have one line. It will always have, quote unquote, a tier 1, 14 to 16, right? Sharpen, increased physical damage. Okay, increased chaos damage, 9 to 13. Whereas if we look, this is a cobalt jewel. If we look at the hypnotic eye jewel, which is its counterpart, 4 the abyssal ones, if you're looking at increased damage, we won't find it, but we'll find the added physical damage to spells while holding while dual wielding, for example, and we'll see that this is divided to tiers, right? There's 1 to 3, 1 to 3. There's 6 different tiers in which physical damage to spells while dual wielding you can get, right? So that makes a pretty big difference in just the eye level um, difference between the jewel, because a regular magic um, rare jewel can have everything, while abyssal jewels need to have high drop zone, right? You need to drop them in a high level zone, or you need to buy them on PoE trade with a specific eye level in mind if you want to craft them, for them to actually roll the high level mods that we want. For example, here, flaring is a prefix of only eye level 83 can roll the most physical damage to spells while holding a shield. Or sorry, while dual wielding. We have also while holding a shield, we have also while wielding a two-handed weapons. So this is kind of a recurrent theme, right? We have physical damage to spells with all these 3 modifiers. We have physical damage to spells while holding a shield over here. Two-handed, this is damage over time, excuse me. So dual wielding, two-handed, and while holding a shield. Here we got dual wielding, two-handed, while holding a shield, but here we're talking about chaos damage to spells, right? So you need to get familiar with these type of mods, and it will take a while because there are a lot and it can get confusing, but the more you deal with it, the more you craft, the more you look PoE trade for those type of things, the more you will learn, the more you'll understand, right? So the eye level makes the difference. And why is that important? Because if we're playing a life build, we want at least eye level 82 before we start crafting, because eye level 82 will guarantee us a chance, won't guarantee the roll, but will guarantee us a chance of rolling Stalwart, which is 46 to 50 flat life roll for Abyssal Jewels. But if we want to roll the most possible damage, then we're going to need an eye level 83, which is the highest roll, and can roll every single mod in the video game for any type of, Viridian, Ghastly, Hypnotic Eye Jewel, depends on what build you're running. Alright, so yeah. Whereas again, if you're looking at the regular Crimson, Viridian, or Cobalt, these can only roll one. It has one line. No matter what you pick, it's always going to have one line, and there's not going to be any difference what eye level you pick them up. They will all be eligible to roll all the potential mods. All right, so this is another thing that, the second difference between them. But yeah, generally we're looking for, as I mentioned, attack builds. We're going to be looking, like melee attack builds, we're going to be looking for the Murderous Eye and the Crimson, Cobalt and Hypnotic for spell related, totem related, energy shield based related builds, Viridian for bows, for wands, Searching Eye Jewel, and minions. We're going to be looking for the Ghastly one. Minion stuff can also roll on Cobalt jewels as well. Now, how do we craft them? If, let's say, we want a spell-related, jewel for ourselves, and we pick up this side, we want, mods that can appear on Cobalt after we looked at PoE trade and kind of like figured out what we wanted. So we can just use the normal crafting materials, right? We got Regal Orbs, alterations, augmentations, transmutes, and scours. Those are generally the roles that we're looking for. Okay, so let's try and look for something for, let's say, my build. For my build, I am playing spell damage while holding a shield. This is a mod that I could use, 15%. All right, so I'm using a shield, and I'm playing an Arc Trapper, which is a lightning spell crit elemental build, right? So we're going to regal that, we're going to augment when we hit something that we want, and then we get non-element chaos damage over time multiplier, useless for us. We're going to re-roll. Energy shield recharge rate, increased damage over time, block, that's a defensive mod, we want damage, crit multi with cold skills. Now, it's not good for my build, but if I augment this and I get something good, then it might be worth something. So we can roll it, and then now we have minion something. It's garbage. Um, Global physical damage could be good for Glacial Cascade, so we're going to augment, burning, rip, cast with cold skills. Alright, here we got crit multi with fire, and crit chance for spells. Okay, so crit chance is kind of bad, because we want crit multi. Generally, when we're looking for, to make profit or valuable rolls or rare rolls, multiple critical multi rolls are very valuable. If you're looking for, if we got like crit chance for spells and crit multi for spells and crit multi um, for for lightning skills, and it's a double crit multi, and if we regal and get a third roll with like life, then it could be very valuable. Here we got 18%, which is the maximum roll of crit multi with lightning skills. So we're going to augment and pray global crit multi. All right. All right, so now we have a double crit multi, and bear in mind, if I look at my tooltip right now, 29962, and I replace it, it becomes 30340. So roughly 400 DPS, right? So this is technically an upgrade, but of course my jewel has the life roll, and this one does not. Right, so what we want to do right now is regal and pray for a life roll. But of course, let's get back to the PoE affix. So if you look at PoE affix, under Cobalt, there is a mighty list of roughly, I don't know, 70, 60 potential mods that we can get. We did remove from the pool the two, right? The crit multi and crit multi with lightning skills. But we are basically looking for just one out of all of these rolls, which is why getting the increased maximum life or buying jewels with double crit multi with increased maximum life is going to be pretty rare and pretty expensive. So let's just throw a regal on it and rip it, because it never happens, but reduce amount of cost of skills, rip. 7% max life would make this jewel about 1 exalt. But again, you can keep trying. You can also hit a triple damage mod, right? There is increased lightning damage, there is increased spell damage, and all sorts of other modifiers that we could have hit that could be useful. Increased cast speed, right? It rolls 2 to 4. If we get increased cast speed or increased spell damage while holding a shield, then it could be good for self-cast arc, not necessarily for us, right? Stuff like that. Cold and light res would have been, double crit multi with double resist. That's 20 all resist here. Could be useful. Could be worth something. All right, so that's like the general idea of how you craft. You just spam alterations until you see something that is good for your build, or that increased max. Now the vivid roll comes along. All right, so the vivid is of course the prefix 5 to 7, increased max life. Now we're going to augment, and it's going to be garbage. Of course, attack speed, yeah, not necessary. And you can just do that forever until you run out of alterations, or you hit something that you want, or you just grow tired of it. Again, crit chance is pretty bad. Crit multi is very good. Alright, so spell damage, cold damage over time multi, with spell damage while holding a shield. Could be good for the new Winter Orb spell. Light res, it's kind of garbage. And again, you can continue and continue and continue and continue, but we won't. Second thing that I wanted to show and kind of like talk about is fossils. Fossils are in fact awesome. They are basically, you could use alterations and scours and, like I said, regal and augments and transmutes to craft these jewels, but you can also use an alchemy orb, right? If an item is white and you throw an alchemy orb on it, you can use an alchemy and you can make it rare, and then you can use a chaos orb and re-roll that rare item, right? Mind damage, crit multi with cold spells, and so on. Trap damage, attacks without dual wielding, it's kind of garbage. But of course there are a lot of rolls 7 to maximum life. That's always calls for a pause. Okay, when there's something that you see life, now we have life, cast speed, and crit multi for spells. I would argue that's worth about 25 to 30 chaos, and that's what I'm going to post it. How do I know? I've played a lot, and I kind of have a feel for that. But if you want, you can look PoE trade. It is a long process, and it's kind of tough to explain how you're going to look for a specific jewel. You're just going to have to learn how to use it. It's a lot of legwork, and it's a very, very long process to explain. I'm going to avoid how to search PoE trade. You're going to have to be familiar. You're going to have to get familiar with the page and kind of like how to do it yourself. I cannot explain about PoE trade. It is just an entire different topic. But generally, you decide on a price. If you get whispered instantly by a million people, that's because generally people are looking for very particular roles, and they have life searches on PoE trade. And when an item pops with these particular roles and it is under a certain value, they're going to immediately contact the seller so that they can snipe it, because this item is usually worth quite a lot more. So if something like that happens, by all means, come to my stream, link me the item, and I can tell you, I can give you a general idea. But typically the jewels or the items that you're going to find, you're going to roll, are going to be kind of like mediocre. We got a life roll, we got some cast speed, and we got some crit multi for spells. So it's not the best possible roll that you can get. Energy shield for something by hit, that's kind of silly, but it's not the best roll that you can get, but it is pretty solid one. So I decided 25, maybe even 30 C. And then what I do with all my gear, all my items in my trade tab, is I just, after I play the video game, I forget about what I have here, and generally like once a day, I cut the prices by a little bit, and if something is not selling, I just vendor it. I don't think about it too much. I don't wait until someone buys that particular item. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and if generally it doesn't happen within a day, then the item is probably useless, or you just overpriced it and then cut the price until it reaches 2 to 3 chaos, which at that point is just not worth keeping the item. Just kick it, vendor it for what it's worth, and move on. All right, now the second exciting thing that I want to talk about with you is, in fact, pretty exciting. It's for me, it's fossils. Fossils are absolutely awesome. And we're going to talk about them a little bit. So, what's good about fossils? Fossils are good because they are essentially an alchemy orb with a very high bias towards certain roles. They tell you what they are more likely to roll, and they tell you what they will absolutely not roll. Okay, so let's take a look at this one right here. This is a very popular jewel fossil that you're going to be using if you want to craft with fossils, and this is the pristine jewel, right? So pristine jewel gives us more life modifiers. If you're playing a life build, that's awesome. Dense, however, gives us more energy shield. So if you're playing an energy shield based build, you want the dense ones for effective life pool, and pristine jewels for any life builds, right? So pristine will give us more life modifiers, but it will take away mods that we normally could potentially roll. In this case, armor, energy shield, or evasion modifiers. Okay, so by doing that, you eliminate potential rolls that you could get, and generally hinder your chances of getting a good roll. Right? Because you don't necessarily want more armor, energy shield, or evasion. You just want life. On most items, you just want life resist. On boots, you also want movement speed. But like on most of your rare gear, you just want life resist. And by removing certain potential rolls from happening, you are making the pool of possibilities smaller. And by doing so, you are increasing the likelihood of your items roll whatever it is that you want. Alright, so what do we do with these fossils? They're not exactly an alchemy orb, right? We can't right click them and use them on items. So we put them inside resonators. There are generally 2 types of resonators with 3 or 4 types of tiers. Right? This is, for example, an alchemical resonator, and this is a chaotic resonator. All of these are either alchemical or chaotic, and they have different number of sockets, right? The tiers. So the alchemical resonators will turn a white item into a rare item. So this is a white item right now, right? If we use scar orbs, we'll make an item white or normal, and if we put a pristine resonator or fossil inside a white inside an alchemical resonator, this is now an alchemy orb that will modify the item and have a highly likelihood of rolling life-related rolls on this hypnotic eye jewel. And no surprise, we got 26 to life. But of course, there are other ways to be a bit more specific, and you can in fact get yourself a 2-socket resonator with pristine right? Pristine, more life modifiers, and prismatic. Prismatic gives us more elemental modifiers, but I play arc, so I want metallic. I actually have just the one. All right, so I want metallic. Metallic makes no physical modifiers, so on a hypnotic eye jewel, we can roll, physical damage to spells while holding a shield, while holding a two-handed weapon. So these 3 rolls are gone because it says no physical modifiers. Eliminates a few of the potential rolls, and again, no armor, energy shield, or evasion, so eliminates a few more rolls, right? So we're going to be using this one on a chaotic because this is an already rare jewel, and we have no reason to spend another scar to make it normal, and there is a chaotic resonator, so kapow. We got a tier 1 life roll. But other than that, kind of a sad story, because we did get, while holding a shield, which is what we're doing, but we got a low fire damage roll, a tier 5 in fact, and a tier 5 lightning damage to spells. Tier 1 increased effect of shock. There's only one tier, it always rolls 6 to 10, spoiler alert, but basically this jewel is pretty garbage, and if we want, we can roll that stuff again. One thing to note is that sometimes, some specific items, and that's kind of like a tip how you can make a little bit of monies on PoE. So let's put these jewels aside, and let's talk about this belt right here. So Stygian Vice belts are in fact basically used on every build, or on a vast majority of all builds. We're going to be using Stygian Vice belts because they have the Abyssal socket, and Abyssal jewels can have lots of additional mods, not just the one implicit. So, like a leather belt only has 1 life roll. Abyssal jewel has 4 potential 4 modifiers that will be better for us. 1 life mod and 3 damage mods, potentially, right? So a lot of times we'll want to use Stygian Vice in our endgame character once we reach maps. Eventually we're going to replace whatever belt that we're using, leather, heavy belt, whatever. We're going to be wanting to use a Stygian Vice belt. So for that, we're going to grab another 2-socketed resonator, and we're going to do some crafting and kind of okay. We got a couple of prismatics, we got a couple of pristine, and we're going to just throw some stuff around until hopefully we get something that I want, and then I'm going to show you. So pristine again with the life, prismatic with the elemental, and we make it a white item with a scar orb, and then we didn't get it now, rip. Let's try and look for more. Don't think I actually have prismatic. Oh, I do. Cool. Let's put it in a chaotic one so we don't have to use scour. Alright, so we did get it. As you see here, there is an increased elemental damage roll. Alright? And it says, of the underground. Fossils and resonators are all a product of of the mines, right? The subterranean chart, the mine encampment, the infinite depths, right? The Delve League, So we are farming these in delves, and sometimes they roll mods that can only happen from um, fossils. So increased elemental damage, no matter how many alterations or no matter how many casts you're going to be spamming on this belt right here, you will never get an increased elemental damage roll. Most you can get is increased elemental damage with attack skills, like this one. Tier 1 life, tier 2 cold rest. Too bad LE damage with attacks is actually pretty bad, because otherwise it could have been a pretty sweet belt, just by adding a resist craft, which I'm sure we have a suffix. We do, so we could have crafted like another resist, but that's kind of like a sidebar. So double resist, tier 1 life, and a good, potentially good elemental damage with attacks. But yeah, so an increased elemental damage roll can only happen if you use a jewel that I currently don't have, or maybe I do. So prismatic jewels, I have a couple more. Alright, so prismatic jewels can roll the underground mod, which is increased elemental damage, and they stack with increased elemental damage with attacks. So if you're kind of like an attack build based, and that attack build based is using elemental damage, you can get a double, potentially double the increased elemental damage. Let's say you're not just an elemental, but you're also an attack based lightning, or an attack based fire, or an attack based cold. You can then use a 3-socket resonator to do something like this. And since we're maybe gonna hit something for myself, I'm going to try and use metallic. I don't think I have one. Oh, I have a couple. Sweet. Pristine. Sweet. Alright, okay. So now we can actually make a little bit of an example, potentially, and look for 3 socket resonators, right? And this is a rare belt, and we got 3 of each. So what do we have here? We have a pristine fossil, which gives us more life modifiers, eliminating armor, energy shield, and evasion. We have a metallic fossil, which gives us more lightning damage, or more lightning modifiers, not necessarily damage, but removing physical. And we have prismatic that removes poison or bleed, but adds more elemental damage. Alright, so we're going to grab 1, 2, and 3 chaotic resonators, and we're going to socket these little jewels over here, or fossils, and then we're going to roll. And what do you know? We have something here. I'm not entirely sure it's particularly good, but something just happened. Okay, so this belt, okay, so note that I added metallic, right? Metallic means more lightning modifiers, but doesn't necessarily mean more lightning damage, unfortunately. We did get a little bit of elemental damage with attacks. We got 99 life roll, which is absolute maximum roll you can get on a belt. It's a tier 1, even though for life sometimes it's kind of weird. It says tier 4, but it is in fact a tier 1. So let's price check this belt. When we're price checking a belt, we're looking for the base of the belt, which is in this case a Stygian Vise. We're looking for total life, 99, right? The bracket will come from 90 to 99, and then not total life, like 2 maximum life, and we're looking for total elemental resist. So elemental resists here are 26, 36, and 40. This makes for quick calculation about 102, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to be looking for 95. We don't want to be very, very strict. So if we're looking at, PoE trade, right here, we're going to be looking for a Stygian Vise, which is, how you look for the base. You don't have to specify belt, okay? It doesn't matter. It will always look for the one that you're looking for here. So 2 maximum life. Again, we're not looking for totals, because then it will also include strength, or 2 all attributes, stuff like that also has strength. We're looking for the explicit roll. 2 maximum life, we want 90, and then total elemental resist of, we had 100, let's look for 93, or just to get a little bit more results. We got a 70 cast belt here, which is not too bad. But our belt also has a resist roll, elemental damage with attacks. It had 11 elemental damage with attacks. Alright, and this is the roll. I'm just going to leave it blank because it unfortunately rolled extremely low. It says 4 exalted orbs here, but this one has 21. This one has 43. You know, this one has 15. Right? Total elemental resist 104, 109. All of these have tier 1 life rolls, right? So I kind of hit the jackpot with this one, you know, video RNG, I guess. And this belt, I would probably post for anywhere between 2 to 3 exalts, just because it has some elemental damage attacks and really high resistances. What I could do is what I won't do and use an annulment orb. I currently don't have one, but annulment removes one random affix from the belt. And if I were to use an annulment, I would try to go for 1 of 6 chance of getting rid of the increased elemental damage attacks, because on a belt we can in fact roll potentially increased elemental with attack skills 24 to 32, which would then make it a pretty clear for to be a 3 to 4 exalted orb belt. But as it is right now, probably just going to post it for 2.2 or something, 2.3, and that's pretty cool. Right? Or I can keep it for myself and use it for a future character, but I don't need to do it because I like crafting with fossils whenever I create a character, and I don't like to just keep stuff and hoard stuff. Generally speaking, items devalue with time. So the longer the league goes, the less people are going to play, and the people that are playing are going to be crafting and playing actively, so more and more items like these will show up, which is a pretty good item, right? Triple resist, tier 1 life, some LE damage attacks, pretty freaking solid. So yeah, a lot of people would like a belt like this. This is, yeah, something that we just got. So we got a belt. It was pretty good, but it's not too close to what I personally need, which is, you know, an upgrade for this. So I don't need it, just for the sake of the example, and since we already prepared our, you know, fossils and resonators. So we're going to try and get another one. Bear in mind that I've picked up an eye level 86 belt. You don't necessarily have to do it, but it's kind of good to have a highest possible rolls. These drop from abyssal depth in area level 83. Inside you can get an eye level 86 belt, which is what I'm using right now. So here we got another. Again, we're looking for life, metallic, and prismatic, so they're very likely to roll a lot of elemental damage mods, but not exactly the damage mods that we're looking for. In this case, we're just going to have to re-roll it. And we got pretty garbage. Again, elemental damage mods, nothing with lightning, but again, having a metallic fossil doesn't guarantee you anything. It just means that you have highly likelihood of rolling something with lightning. In this case, we didn't get it, but we did get elemental, and we did get life, and life recovery from flasks. Yeah, is in fact a life mod. So these are fossils. Now I promised I will show some pretty OP results that I've gotten with fossils, and if I were to try and you know, buy similar things on my own, then I would probably end up you know, spending a whole lot more on buying stuff like that on PoE Trade. Let's go to standard, because this league in Betrayal I didn't get to craft too much, and we're just going to look at my Scourge arrow. I talked about it. I have a full guide on this character. I'm not going to go through everything, obviously. It's not a build guide for this character. Just want to show you some really strong results on a character that specifically used a lot of Abyssal Jewels to amplify the damage. We're stacking a lot of Abyssal Jewel damage. It comes from the Abyssal Jewels to make this character extremely powerful. So here's a couple of examples. Okay, let's just throw in these jewels as well to show you how I built this character in terms of jewels specifically, because we talked about jewels a lot. So this character has 1, 2, 3, 4, oh, there's a 5 one here. Jewel sockets in the tree, and then on gear I have room for more abyssal jewels right here. So this character has 5 abyssal jewels and 2 regular jewels and 1 unique jewel. Unique jewel, yeah, The unique jewel is Lionized Fall. Transform all these claw nodes into bows. Uh, yeah, so it will convert all melee modifier to bow modifier, which basically gives us a bunch of stuff here from this cluster. From the claws, it just becomes bows. But the focus here is on these jewels. Now, what are these jewels? Basically, this character was created as a physical damage stacking while using a Doomfletch Prism bow. Last line of Doomfletch Prism says, gain 100% weapon physical damage as extra damage of each element, which means cold, fire, and lightning. So essentially, this bow gives us 300% of weapon physical damage as extra elemental damage, right? Because fire, cold, lightning, 100% of each element. So that's times 3 physical weapon as extra elemental. So if you look at the damage of the bow, it's kind of nonsensical, right? 31 to 78 is a pretty low number. And if we're looking at the bow itself, then the eye level requirement is only 40. So this is used as a leveling bow in a lot of bow builds, and is not particularly considered, like, it's a very, very strong bow once you use it properly, but it's considered to be like a leveling bow for a lot of bow builds, right? But here what we've done is I used physical stacking with these jewels to just add a hell of a lot of physical damage to our bow attacks, because then we gain 300% as elemental, right? So yeah, that's what we've done. So I was using jagged and pristine fossils. Jagged, I do have quite a lot of jewel tabs or fossil tabs. Here we got perfect ones. Generally, jagged are let's see. There's one. So jagged fossils add more physical modifiers and no chaos modifiers. So I've used these eye level 83. This one I think I've found, but all of these, the rest are crafted. I crafted these with fossils. I think I actually, is this one the one? I may have found this and decided to make a build because I found this jewel. Which is kind of silly, but sometimes I do those kind of things. I found a double physical damage to bows with life and double resist, and I was like, okay, let's make a build around it. Sometimes it happens. It's silly, but this turned out to be the strongest character I've ever made, or at least top 2, including the Arcmind. I guess top 3. Arcmind, GC Mind. This is on the very same level, and it's actually a faster clearer of maps because bows and Scourge Arrow is in fact pretty insane in clearing everything altogether. So the idea here was to get the double physical damage and life, and just try and get as high tier of rolls as we possibly could. So if you look at this jewel, we have a tier 1 physical damage to bows, tier 2 physical damage to attacks, tier 3 or tier 4 life, increased effective shock is kind of irrelevant. I think I exalted that one. I exalted everything, I think. Yeah, nothing here has 3 mods because, well, I got a bunch of currency, and sometimes you hit some really nice things with just a nice exalt if it happens. So we got a lot of life, a lot of resist, and double damage mods over here, right? So fizz damage to bows, fizz damage to attacks, life, double resist. Those jewels are absolutely awesome. Here we got again fizz damage to bows, tier 1 roll. Phasing on kills kind of irrelevant. We did get the life. Here we got a tier 1 life or tier 2 life roll. Tier 1 flat fizz damage to bows. Some fire damage to bows. It's kind of irrelevant, but double resist. So very, very strong jewel. And with this, when we socket these in, here we got a Murderous Eye Jewel. Now, Murderous Eye Jewel is specifically so we can get the Murderous Eye Jewel Intimidate for 4 seconds on hit with attacks, which makes them take 10% increased attack damage, which makes it more damage, in fact, which is a very, very powerful mod. So these gloves makes for a very powerful attack-based build gloves, and yeah, you need a murderous eye jewel. So I just wanted a generic physical damage with attacks, and I got 43 to life, which is tier 2, and double resists. So, kapow. So, single fizz damage here, double fizz damage here, with resistances and life. Very, very strong jewels we got over here for this character, and they make for an insane boost in our damage overall. So, and over here I just got just, increased physical damage with bows, double attack speed and crit multi, which is pretty insane on its own. 13% increased attack speed. This jewel 30.5, 33.6. This is probably the strongest jewel that ever had any kind of impact. Like probably the strongest jewel on all of my characters. But yeah, it's pretty insane. And over here we got just double attack speed and a single crit multi, and I exalted the mono regeneration here. But still, an incredibly strong jewel, because attack speed makes for really, really good damage boost for basically all attack-based builds. The attack speed makes for a pretty good damage boost. So this is kind of like an example, and I've crafted all of these jewels myself, and it was kind of a lot of fun, pretty fun process overall. Just pristine and jagged and exalts because I had the currency. But yeah, you can make yourself a character like this. I've played this character for quite a bit. Turned out to be 96, and I killed Uber Elder many times with it. And it's a big part of it is thanks to the physical damage that we got, especially from Jagged. And if you look for similar jewels like this on PoE Trade, you won't find them because they're incredibly rare, unless they're crafted with fossils, right? So yeah. Basically, this is it. I hope you learned something. I hope I helped. I know this video turned out to be a bit long, but hey, there's a lot to know on PoE, and I hope this is just another step for you to becoming pretty good PoE players. All right. If you have any questions, feel free to make a comment. I read all the YouTube comments, and you are always invited to join the stream. I stream every day. And yeah, I hope I helped you out a little bit, figuring out this game a little bit more. Craft some stuff with fossils, it's amazing. Alteration Regals, also quite nice, especially working very, very well with Abyssal Jewels. It is fairly, I don't want to say easy, but it is more common to get good results with Abyssal Jewels, with Alterations, Augments, and Regals. And early in the league, if you find reasonably level jewels early on, you can craft some pretty good results, and you can make a lot of currency selling these because there aren't a lot of good rolls out there in the market. So it's a very good way of making some currency. So practice, enjoy it. Crafting is pretty awesome, and these jewels are pretty strong, and make a pretty good part of your overall character's gearing up. So hope you learned it, a little something, and thanks for watching. See you guys on stream.